Hello, all. This is Dr. Dave Maslach talking to you about reciprocity.com. The E is written with a 3. And in this particular video, I want to talk about whether doing a PhD is actually prestigious. So, if you don't know me, I'm a professor of innovation strategy and entrepreneurship, and I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There were so many people that helped me out to get my PhD and to get through graduate school. I wanted to pay the favor forward and help out other people by doing these YouTube videos. And then I also created this sharing economy proofreading platform to help out other people get feedback on their work, because I know that's really difficult. It was difficult for me. So I wanted to create something, and it's still a work in progress and I'm still creating it. So with that, is a PhD actually prestigious? Is it respected? Well, the answer might surprise you in terms of somebody that actually has a PhD and I've worked hard at it. I think it largely depends on a lot of different factors and stuff that you'd want to consider before you actually do a PhD or think about doing a PhD. There's lots of other things that are considered just as prestigious, or, when I'm talking about prestige, I'm talking about sort of social economic status and the standing that you have within society by having in society, meaning like the community, the immediate community, by having a PhD. And I think it really depends on a lot of different factors. And I've got 5 that I think are important. There's probably other ones. You can put some comments below. So the first one is, thinking about the subject matter that you have. So if you do a PhD in something that's really esoteric and not a lot of people are paying attention to it, then it maybe doesn't hold as much prestige as other ones that have, more. People just see the value in that particular thing that you're doing. And all PhDs, all research is valuable. I'm not going to discount that. I know that for a fact, even if you're studying some really strange, wonderful thing. If you're studying the wings on a fly, for example, well, that has huge impacts for, maybe it's aerodynamics, or thinking about how we might actually fly an airplane. Think about flying an airplane. We don't actually fly the same way as birds fly. And we don't understand that very well, from what I understand. How birds actually flap and they get, they lift and do all that kind of crazy stuff, right? And if we can understand how bugs do that, then we can have an impact going forward. So part of it is thinking about the subject matter, but then also creating a important case, or a case that the stuff that you're doing is important for the world around you, and sort of demonstrating that and why it's interesting. Now, the second thing, I think this is really important too, in terms of prestige, is thinking about where the PhD or the university where you got your PhD. So some universities are really tough to get into, and they're very highly regarded. And you want to think about that in terms of the PhD. So it sometimes doesn't matter what the PhD you did. If it came from a really prestigious university, sometimes that matters a lot more, right? And people sort of pick up on that's an important thing that you did. It was a rite of passage that is difficult, that not a lot of people can do, and that there is a huge screen before you actually get into that particular program, right? So people recognize that, and they kind of recognize that that's an important thing. So it's going to also depend a lot on some other factors, like your peer group, for example, right? So if they understand what it means to do a PhD, and I've experienced this a lot, I'm sure a lot of you have experienced this as well. So if they understand what a PhD is, then you're going to get some prestige from that, right? Because they understand it's a difficult process and it's really challenging, and lots of people try to do it and they don't make it through and all that kind of stuff. But then if there's other people that don't understand what a PhD is, and I hear a lot of that actually, there's more people that don't understand what you do in a PhD and what it's all about, and getting a doctorate and what it's all about. And so they're going to discount that because they just don't understand what you're doing, and they think it's kind of a waste of time, and sort of really esoteric questions are a waste of time and things like that. But they do matter, right? And you have to think about that. So if you have a peer group that sort of discounts that, then, well, they're going to discount what you're doing, and then it's not going to have that much prestige, right? So you're not going to have that much socioeconomic status from obtaining that particular degree. Another thing is thinking about the country that you're in. So this is the fourth thing, is thinking about the particular country that you're in. So sometimes, and there's some really great research that is really well founded now by Hofstede, is one of the people that looked at this as sort of cultural differences around the world. And one of the differences is sort of the divide between sort of status, or the recognition of status or position in a society, really matters. And some countries really recognize that and is very well respected, right? In other countries, not so much. So in the United States, they're probably not going to recognize it nearly as much than in other countries that do recognize that sort of status divide. And so it's going to hold a lot less prestige compared to some in other kind of countries, right? So it's going to matter with that, and even just depending on sort of the standing within the society, right? Like of how people actually view education is going to matter. There's lots of different sort of factors that are going to vary between countries. So you should look into that, right? So if you're in a country right now, I know YouTube is global, which is really cool. Sometimes having a PhD in some countries is well respected, and sometimes it's not in others. And it also depends on the supply and demand of PhDs in that particular country. So sometimes there's not a lot of PhDs in a specific country. There's lots in the US, but there's, not a lot in some other locations, right? And so they might hold a little bit more respect and prestige in that particular country. You want to think about that. And the last thing, I think the fifth thing is recognizing that prestige and how you personally perceive your PhD matters a lot, right? So if you view your PhD as not holding a lot of prestige, then it's going to reflect on other people that the PhD that you actually have, or the doctorate degree that you actually have, is not really worth a lot to you. And so it's not going to hold a lot of prestige for you. It's not going to be something that you coveted. But if it's something that you covet and it's something that you really recognize that it was a challenge, it was difficult to do, and you tell other people, then they're going to recognize that, yeah, it is prestigious, right? It actually is something to be coveted and difficult to do. So you'd want to think about how you are perceiving it, and whether it is recognized in your mind, whether it's actually prestigious or not, or whether it holds any particular respect in society. If you respect it, then it's likely that other people are going to respect it. And that's an important thing to think about, is how your own personal views impact other people around you, and what sort of influence you have on other people around you. So if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. I do appreciate it. Do subscribe to the YouTube channel. You're so nice if you did. It's amazing that there's so many people that have done this so far. Super cool of you. But anyways, thank you so much. Take care, and have a wonderful day. Bye.